Welcome to another episode in our series of personal empowerment audio programs, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our program today is an acknowledgement, an affirmation, even a recommendation. We call this one, Paradise Lives Within Me Now.
So that begs the question of what's paradise? What's it mean to live inside you? And the now we'll get to in the future. No, we'll do it right now. Starting with, what is paradise? Steve and I were saying to each other earlier today that it's possible that you can have paradise in you, even if you are not living in paradise. In other words, in the middle of that snowstorm that just went roaring through the Northeast, or in the middle of a traffic jam, even if you're late and feeling under pressure, if you're sad and depressed, you can make a shift. You can learn to access on demand an elevated perspective and a greater understanding of things that we call paradise.
And so what is paradise? Well, let's start with what we know it isn't. It isn't confusion and anxiety and tension. It isn't stress. We know that. Paradise is not stress. It isn't dangerous. It isn't full of too much stuff. It isn't overwhelming. Paradise really has so many options. I mean, there's an infinite number of paradises available to the human mind, but there's always a couple of factors that I think are pretty constant, and that is paradise always feels safe. I mean, if it's a dangerous place, it's not paradise. And it always feels, at least to the observer, beautiful. If it's sort of not beautiful, it's not paradise. Paradise has the double factor of being beautiful and safe. Now, from there, it could be otherworldly, it could be innerworldly, it could be a memory or a fantasy, it could be an infinite variety of possibilities. And paradise also is a state of consciousness that involves all five inner perceptions, like the imaginary sense of sight and smell and taste, all five sensory imaginations, and also what you're feeling and what you're thinking, what thoughts and feelings are evoked by those imaginations. It's a whole inner world experience we create of paradise where you feel safe, encased in a place of beauty. There's no need for any of your mind to be on alert, like a fight or flight alert. It lets all the guard down, and feeling so safe, all of your mind focused on only one thing, all of your attention on only one thing, and all of your emotions geared and passionate on that one thing. This is the most powerful state human minds can create, and it's also the doorway to that ability to take a step back and observe ourselves and that higher consciousness available to us that comes through this alpha state, this focused concentration, this zone, this place we call paradise. It's safe, it's beautiful, and it's also enrapturing. It's wonderment-provoking. It's awe-inspiring. It's a state that takes every bit of you and brings it right to that single point of focus.
Since the mid-1970s, one of the popular terms for this alpha brainwave state, this paradise, is the relaxation response, coined by Dr. Herbert Benson, who's still very prolific, publishing a lot of books. He's out of Harvard University. And he knew that there was a need for a mechanism that would act as an antidote to the automatic or autonomic fight-or-flight response when you perceive danger. Well, in the kind of lifestyle most of us are leading now in the 21st century with all this technology, all this stimulus, frankly, all this pressure and stress, the subconscious mind, or the brain, if you wish, perceives all this confusion as quite likely to be dangerous, and it kicks into the survival mode of fight or flight. But, who are you going to hit? This is just the adversity of life. And if you run from it, well, it's confusion. So you're going to take it with you. So there doesn't seem to be any way out of this fight or flight response until we take a look at Benson's relaxation response. And you could say, well, that's meditation. Someone else might say contemplation, because I'm not really applying my thinking. I'm just pondering and musing, free associating. That's contemplation, really emptying the mind, as opposed to a visualization or guided imagery exercise. Others might say, hey, that's self-hypnosis. Well, I did that in phys ed and that yoga class that I took once, and Athletes might say, well, that's sports psychology. And an actor or singer would say, well, we learned to do the same thing in rehearsing our performances. When you feel safe and relaxed, when you learn to breathe and allow yourself to consciously let go of muscular tension, to really on a deep level feel safe, these brain waves lower into the alpha level, and your mind opens and integrates. You become more whole. Instead of these two aspects of mentality, the conscious and subconscious, fighting back and forth, or shouting as if they're miles and miles away and yet they have to shout at each other, they come together. It's like they now are standing side by side, whispering in each other's ear. And there's much more integration between the nature of consciousness itself, your volition, your willpower, and the subconscious, which you know mostly as your imagination. Paradise gives us access to both at once in a really healthy and integrated way.
Yeah, that's part of the power of paradise, is that it's using both of your minds at the same time on the same thing, and that's a good definition of the alpha state, or what we call narrow awake. Totally focused, all of mind, all of heart on the same thing. Conscious mind and subconscious mind, or you could say left brain and right brain, or ego or id, or child mind, adult mind, brain mind, heart mind, thinking mind, feeling mind. There's a whole litany of different names. But bottom line...
Objective and subjective.
There you go.
Back in the 19th century, in Freud's time, in Jung's time, Reich's time, often it was objective and subjective, or will and imagination.
So many ways of looking at these two aspects of the way we do things, but when we're asleep, the conscious mind's turned off and there's only the subconscious. And when we're highly stressed, there's a filter between the two, the reticular activating system, that makes it really difficult to access. So it's only when we relax and get out of stress, when we're in stress and our mind believes we're in danger, we need access to the fight or flight. We don't need access to the creativity and the wisdom and intelligence and compassion and empathy and the affable human quality. But when we relax, then we're not in danger. Then our mind can open up to the real human part of our mind, to the blood flowing back up into the neocortex, and us really gaining access to intelligence and creativity and intuition and imagination, all those amazing things that are available to us in this alpha state. It's the hypnotized state, it's the meditative state, it's the daydream state, it's the spaced-in state, it's the zone, whatever name you want to put on it. Again, it's a powerful place. And for me, it's always been represented by paradise. I remember the very first time I purposely hypnotized myself. I had read some books, Self-Hypnosis by Leslie Liu Crone and some other books, and I was 8 years old, I think, and I purposely hypnotized myself. And I thought I'd make sure. I didn't want to, guess. I wanted to make sure I got it right. So I tried 3 different things at the same time. I worked on making my body feel heavy, and I said to myself the word heavy, and I felt, and then I said to myself the word peaceful, and I imagined this peaceful place, this beautiful meadow with this babbling brook and these 3 deer. That was the first image that came to my mind. The meadow was real. The brook and the deer were imaginary, or one was from memory and the other from fantasy. And later I added a rainbow just when I moved about. But then I would say to myself, deep sleep, as I'd roll my eyes up in my head to sort of trigger, like your eyes roll up when you fall asleep, so sort of trigger. So I started with this concept of feeling heavy and then being in this peaceful place and picturing that place and then saying to myself, deep sleep, and rolling up my eyes. Over the years, I shortened it and modified it down to just the picture, the idea, the feeling of that peaceful place. But for me, paradise has always been directly associated with this hypnosis, meditation, the alpha brainwave state. But I think as a metaphor, it's even much more beautiful than the actual concept of a nice, beautiful physical place in the world. The idea of paradise being a state of mind where you feel safe. That's the bottom line of it all, where you actually feel safe. And even if, when your eyes are open, there is some danger out in the real world, and there is, every night you go to sleep and relax enough by feeling safe enough to feel like you're not in any danger right now. You're capable of, every single night of your life, you're capable of letting go of the fear of being attacked by something out there and going down to sleep. But what we're saying is stop part way, go in that direction, let yourself feel safe enough to start to fall asleep, and then stop part way, because before the conscious mind turns off, while it's still awake, but the subconscious is now open and available, you've got this two-way communication thing can go on. You can hypnotize yourself and give yourself suggestions that are positive in the present tense with lots of repetition and lots of passion. That's the most powerful way. And you can also ask questions of yourself and listen for the answers, or just sit receptive and see what happens, or step back and observe what's going on in a detached kind of way. There's a lot of wonderful things you can do once you get out of the stress and into this place of feeling safe. So we call it paradise. Lots of people just call it relaxation response is a common name for it, or being hypnotized, or, daydreaming, just spaced out. Lots of names, but there is power in that state, and you can use that state in an escape way to just space out and not pay attention to any one thing. But the power comes when you decide to bring the two minds together and space in and pay attention to whatever it is you choose.
In some ways, paradise is the love that lives perpetually in your heart, that you can experience, you really can, at any time, for no reason. I mean, without someone to love you, without someone to say to you, I love you, you're so lovable, and giving you that love, without the situation or circumstance that might cause you to feel really appreciated and accepted and lovable. Without any of that, there still is a light that shines, and it's up to each of us to determine just how brightly that light shines, that perpetual love that lives in our hearts. Even when we're in danger and this fight or flight response kicks in, love, you see, is consciousness. And even if we're scared half to death and pass out and become unconscious, as Steve was explaining, you still have a subconscious mind that's going to continue to operate. As long as you're, quote, alive, that mind is going to be operating. And again, that's really what we can access, that subconscious mind, most effectively when we experience ourselves as being that safe and able to relax to that degree. I mean, what is so safe and relaxing about nature? Paradise could be a wilderness. It could be a beautiful garden that's even walled in, I suppose, if you're a little nervous or anxious. I choose the wilderness because, for the most part, that's a very safe place. There is danger in the wilderness, danger of falling down and hurting yourself and not being able to find the help, or running out of water, I suppose, exposed to the elements. There are dangers from the animals, the critters that live there, but by and large, it's a live and let live world. The wilderness really is, and you really are quite safe there. Deer would never be able to graze. I have this image in my mind of those African wildlife films of the savannah and the gazelles and the deer grazing, even though you know, and they do too, there's lions lurking in the tall grass on the edge of the plain. And yet the deer, the antelope know the lions are there, but, if the danger's not imminent, they're going to continue to feel safe enough to graze, right? Often we don't allow ourselves to feel safe enough to graze, even, to take our attention off negative thinking and what might be. Again, the irony that many times we are tempted to prepare for problems that do not exist, as if there's some benefit in anticipating this fantasy, this negative paranoid delusion that you just invented. Out of a good intention, I'll admit, a desire to anticipate and prepare. What we need to understand, however, is the basic law of mind, which is especially enhanced in paradise, which is the law of attraction, that you reap what you sow, you go where you look, and you tend to attract what you put your attention on. So, we shouldn't be foolish. We've got to look at the negative from time to time, but if you spend your time dwelling upon it as if there's a benefit in anticipating negativity and failure, you better reconsider the magnetic nature of the law. That's why it's called the law of attraction. You're going to go where you look and get what you expect, by and large. By and large.
So if paradise is a complete state of mind, all five inner senses and a sense of feelings and thoughts, and you've got it lodged as this attitude, place, space that you can create in your mind. It's always there. It's that paradise lives within me now. So let's look at the lives concept here, because we know what paradise is. It's different for each of us, but it's safe and it's beautiful, and it's a place where we're creative and innovative, and it's wonderful. But that it lives. And it's not like paradise lived in me a minute ago. Paradise lives in me now means that it's, as all living things, it's growing. It's not stagnant. It's growing. It's changing. It's getting better. It's this paradise that lives inside of me now is in consistent state of recreating itself. It's alive. It's a living thing. It's part of who I am. And so it's not like I can put it aside or just have access to it once in a while. On some level, it's always there. It's always affecting me. It's always changing me and directing me toward feeling safer and feeling more as if I live in paradise. But we can also have the ability to bring it to the forefront and be where it's the main filter we have through the world when we need it the most. Paradise can live inside of me in a state not extinct, not even dormant, just sort of in the background. It can live inside me, but when I need it the most, then I can bring it out and make it the most important feeling I have. Paradise lives inside of me now. It never dies. It comes alive. It sparks like a fire. It's a feeling that I can have more at some times than at other times. But it's never gone. It's always there. It lives inside me now.
Paradise lives inside me now the way a JPEG or a photo that you put on your computer, hit save, and then forgot about lives inside that computer. It's there. You can search for it. You can find it. You can display it. You can print it out. It might be a stretch, but to take that allegory another step, paradise lives inside me now in the same way music lives inside the instrument. Inside this guitar or this violin or this piano is every concerto, every square dance, every rockabilly tune or sweet folk song or standard or rock and roll, whatever. They're all within the potential of this instrument to express. If you think of yourself as an instrument of paradise, what does that mean? What does it mean to express paradise? From a living place, paradise lives in me now. It's an alive thing. It's a living thing, this paradise, that we're choosing to feel safe enough to experience as real. This longing in my heart to love, to be loved, to want to have an impact, to make a positive, life-affirming difference in the world, and to know myself, to understand myself better. These longings, this urge, even this drive, some might say, well, people can have different words for it, describe it in different ways, but do you feel it? Are you still in touch with it? I hope so. It's the essence of life itself. In many ways, it's unquenchable. It's a hunger that never quite gets satiated, like Jagger's "I can't get no satisfaction." This is actually in Buddhism called suffering. Although we do suffer from time to time, it's a bit overstated. It's really a reference to this lack of contentment that no matter how well things are going for us, there seems to be an element missing, especially in normal consciousness, in normal awareness, focused out into the world through our physical senses. And yet when we come to paradise, that contentment gets resolved. That feeling of satisfaction actually can be experienced as if being right here, right now, in paradise, somehow is enough, at least for right now. And then you're aware of your pulse, and you become aware of your breathing, and you know that life has a rhythm, but you're not really moving forward. The progress, the improvement, the ascension is more an unfolding of potential that you've already got, so you just sit right here, right now, evolving and unfolding in terms of your consciousness. and the benefits then of deliberately going to paradise and awakening that. How about tuning into it? How about aligning yourself and opening yourself to the energy, to the raw potential that's available when you're focused in this way, gently in paradise? I think it's a wonderful word and a great affirmation to say again and again, to keep reminding yourself, paradise lives in me now.
And, the in me part's real important too, because you don't have to live in paradise to have paradise live in you, as we said. I spent the last 10% of my life in paradise, actually living in Maui, as has Michael, in the last several years, and it's been truly a paradise. But I spent the first 90% of my life living in Los Angeles, which was hardly a paradise. Even from the earliest childhood, I remember it wasn't safe. I mean, like, make sure you're holding a grown-up's hand before you cross the street, and don't talk to strangers. And there was always, safer than it's perceived to be today, although it was about equally safe probably. But it wasn't safe. It wasn't a place where you could, do anything you wanted to do and frolic and feel safe. There was always a part in Los Angeles, and I think in probably any big city in the world, where there's a feeling of at least fraught with danger, if not real danger. So I escaped from that, into places that were paradise in my mind, and it started with books for me, but it went eventually to my own imagination, I guess fed often by the books, but creating my own paradise in my own mind, and creating that as a place that I'd escape to, go to regularly every single day of my life, this paradise I made. But the idea of it's inside of me, it's like no matter what's happening out there, I can have it inside of me. It's not affected by that. It's always there inside of me. It's like, it's not, if my circumstances changes and all of a sudden I don't have any money, or all of a sudden I'm sick, or all of a sudden something, it's not like I lost my paradise. It's not dependent upon the external world. It's always dependent upon me. It's like the external world can't take away my memories. It can't take away my imaginations. It can't take away my paradise. Nobody can take away my paradise. It's mine. It lives inside of me. And the only time that it lives, the only time that matters is now. It always lives inside of me. It's a perpetual state of living inside of me now. So this feeling of, I feel safe, I'm not in any danger right now, and so therefore I can use my highest human qualities to be creative and to manifest what I want. I have access to that anytime I want it. I have access to it even when I'm not thinking about it. Sometimes it just washes over me, but I have access to it purposefully anytime I want it. I have access to this paradise. All I have to do is remember what, for me, paradise smells like and looks like and tastes like and sounds like and feels like, and therefore I own it. Because to the subconscious mind, as we've said so many times, the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between real and imaginary. It's all the same. It's all exactly the same. It's paradise, and it's very, very real.
Subconscious always goes for the bait, even if it's a plastic nightcrawler. It doesn't care. Looks like a nightcrawler, I'm going to go for it. Especially when you develop this in a positive and life-affirming way, and then everybody wins, and it's joyous, and, I want to do that again. I really love believing these positive images that you're placing in front of me, said the subconscious to the conscious.
It always likes what feels good and doesn't like what feels bad. It's pretty clear on that.
Yeah, sure. It's in many ways the child within us, and the oh boy and the golly gee part of imagination.
Yeah, the oh boy and the oh no is a big part of what the subconscious does.
We can say paradise lives in me now. Steve is saying paradise lives inside of me now.
Or within me now. There's lots of wonderful ways of saying that.
It begs the question, just where within you does that live? Now, I presumed for much of my life that everybody, like me, this was my presumption, lived in their heads. Until people started saying to me from time to time, Michael, you're so cerebral, you're so in your head. And I'm thinking, well, what does that mean? And where else would I be? Even emotional feelings, I came to understand, were more than something to think about. That in time I learned by studying, by going into therapy and taking classes and workshops and attending expositions, reading every book I could get my hands on, that I had the ability, like everyone else, to go down into my body with my awareness and actually feel an emotion in my body. I'm like in my late 20s or early 30s. before I realize that I can be in my body with my awareness. I can go all the way down to my feet. I can imagine myself from the point of view of being in one of my big toes, right? It's just that I'm more comfortable in my head. But not everybody is there. Where are you? I mean, take a moment just now, unless you're driving a car or doing something that requires your attention. But if you're in a place where you can, take a moment now to just close your eyes and trusting your first impression. Where do I hang out? You ask yourself. Where do I live? Where am I? And where will I look for that paradise that lives within me?
So finding that paradise within you is the easy part. It's remembering to reinforce it and make it grow, make it alive. Therefore, it needs like light, and it needs to be fed. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be, especially at the beginning when you create your first paradise place inside of you, it needs to be given a lot of attention. More attention, and a lot of passion around it. But once you have this paradise place within you, this feeling of feeling safe, it reinforces itself, because once it starts feeling good, the mind wants to keep doing it. And people go into this state and they want to take the few extra moments, they're no hurry to get out this time. It's feeling better and better. So this wonderful paradise place that lives within you, you can make more alive, more powerful, more deep. And as you do, it changes you. I mean, it gives you this other way of seeing the world. I mean, so many people, their filter of the world is the nervous, anxious world, the fearful, dangerous world, and that's the way they see most everything, through that lens. And what we're saying is at least give equal time to paradise. I mean, if you're going to spend some of your time thinking about what could go wrong, at least you ought to spend some of your time thinking about what could go right. I mean, it's totally fair. And actually, we're sort of leading toward like almost all of your time. Michael's philosophy is always, I love this, was worry once. Take some time to figure out what could go wrong and what would you do if that went wrong. In the worst case scenario, you couldn't handle every possibility, even if you spend the rest of your life on it. So get the worst case down, have a scenario, have a plan, and then the rest of the time you don't have to worry anymore, because if you can handle worst case, you can handle anything else. So spend your time over here in paradise, where you feel safe. The things that make you feel in danger are the things you're worried about. There's no real danger. It's not like wild animals you're afraid of, or what you're afraid of is the thing like money things and relationship things and work things you're worried about that aren't real. They could happen in the future, and they're more likely to if you keep thinking about them. But those things are what cause you to feel endangered, even though there's no real danger. So go away from those things and go into paradise. Now, what's in paradise? Well, for me, in paradise is not only like the beautiful place, but everything else I want to create in my life. That's where I start. For me, if I'm inventing a new thing, I'm imagining myself sitting in my paradise place, my beautiful meadow, my beautiful place, and inventing it from there. I created this idea a long, long time ago of a learning laboratory sitting in my paradise, and I made this learning lab where you could read faster and learn things better. And you can create in your paradise this relationship bench, where you bring your spouse and you sit there and you work stuff out together. You can create anything you want in your paradise. It's starting with place. An environment that's safe and wonderful and joyful, and anything's possible. It's just such a beautiful place to live your life from. Now, not everything that you imagine in your paradise comes true, but there's great good that you do yourself by imagining things that feel good, even if they don't come true, because it's the direction your mind moves now. The more you think about things that you don't want to happen, the more your mind thinks that's what you do want to happen. The more you think about what you do want to happen, the more your mind thinks that's what you do want to happen. Wherever you spend your energy, your mind thinks that's what you want to do. So, yeah, worry once, but spend a lot of time in paradise thinking about wonderful things that could happen for you, that could happen for the planet. When enough people, it's not have to be all of us, when enough people start thinking different thoughts, it changes the world. Most of human history, we have this institution called slavery, and everybody would have always said that slavery's always been here and always will be here. But, enough people change their mind about that. And so it's a very rare, if existent, condition anymore. We can do the same thing with war. We can do the same thing with poverty. We can do the same thing with hunger. We can do the same thing with all kinds of things, and we know the solution. It's not like we have to invent a solution. The solution is philanthropy. We know how to do it. It's just a matter of doing it. So the more people that start imagining it, like Gates and more people that start imagining it and start actually funneling real money into changing the world changes. So it starts with a thought. It starts with an imagination. It starts from Bill Gates feeling safe enough that he could give half of his fortune or a huge percentage of his fortune away because he knew he had plenty and more than plenty, and that place is paradise for him. I mean, I've got to imagine the feeling of giving billions of dollars to heal the planet has got to feel like paradise deep inside.
So today we're talking about the suggestion, the affirmation, the program, if you will. The instruction, how about the command? I guess of all of those, I like affirmation the best. To affirm, to confirm. Paradise lives in me now. When? Well, right now. That's the point. No sense putting it off. How about paradise might live in me later this week? Well, who would that?
Can't wait.
Who would that be up to? Maybe tomorrow, right? I mean, are we afraid of this? Are we afraid of paradise? Are we afraid of success? Is success or personal happiness a challenge? Our issues about deservability, whether we can really handle it or not? Are we that unfamiliar with getting what we want or even knowing what it is that we want? How about now? How about right now? How about there is no other time but now? You have never taken a breath from the past. You have never inhaled from the future. You could, of course, argue that you will be breathing in the future, but when that happens, it'll be now, right? Look, I'm not just playing a game. I'm talking about the challenge that a metaphysical or philosophical idea of ultimately no time and no space existing behind time and space. How do we deal with the reality, if it is in fact a reality, that ultimately there is no time? What does that leave us with? Nothing? It leaves us with something very wonderful, very pregnant and replete, very powerful, which is the present moment, the infinity and the eternity bound up in this pinpoint of an instant. All the world, all the universe, every possibility, every imaginable potential is perpetually ever present, right here, right now. And it's the mind that we use to net through the imagination and our intuition these potentials and these possibilities. Unless, of course, we're distracted by thoughts of the past or fears of the future, then your point of power right here, right now, the pinpoint of reality unfolding perpetually is lost, while you repeat that old story about the past, to yourself or to others, telling those stories again, or anticipating a future, imagining problems that don't yet exist just in case they might. What's the problem with that? Well, a little bit of that isn't completely out of the range of reasonable behavior, but to dwell upon it, that's the problem. You miss the moment. You miss it right now. It's like going to an expensive restaurant and having an argument that distracts you from the fact that this is delicious food. And after the meal, even if you resolve the argument, it was like, well, how was dinner? Well, I don't know. I didn't really pay attention. You weren't really there. You were there, but you were not in paradise. Your anxiety and your stress distracted you, right? And so you weren't aware of the whole point of going there. One of the points of going to a really nice restaurant was to enjoy, to savor the food and create a nice atmosphere around that. Paradise is perpetually at our fingertips. We can have it now. Indeed, that's the only time to have paradise, to invoke it as always, right here, right now.
So if paradise lives within me now, what does that mean? Well, it starts from a place of, if I'm living in paradise, then paradise is safe and feels good, so therefore there can't be any suffering. There's no suffering if you feel safe. So that means you have to let go of any attachments. So in paradise, you have a high intention but low attachment. You have this, real strong desire for stuff to happen, but you're not attached to that having to be the outcome, because if you are, then you're setting yourself up for suffering. The universe might give you something better. The universe might give you something that doesn't look as good on the surface, but has within it the lessons you need. Who knows what's going to happen. But in paradise, it's your imagination. It's not real. So you don't get to attach to anything because, something better could pop up, something different could pop up. So with no attachments but high intentions, you can feel safe to imagine anything you want, including the best possible outcomes. So what happens in paradise is you become a huge optimist, because it's safe to be. There's no fear of disappointment. You're not attached to any particular outcome, so there won't be any suffering. So even if it doesn't happen, it'll be cool. No matter what happens, it'll be great. So in paradise, your whole attitude becomes like rosy, happier, upbeat, more positive, more optimistic. You're not afraid of disappointment. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time thinking about what could go wrong. You do the worry once thing. And so your mood gets better. Your outlook for the future gets better. You start to expect good things to start happening for you. You start to expect yourself to be lucky and fortunate, and you become the outcome of those thoughts and feelings. And so when you live with paradise as the foundation of who you are, you become very upbeat, very positive, very optimistic. And even when you solve your problems, when you have problems to deal with, you're in paradise solving your problems. It's not like you're in a place where you're too overwhelmed to be able to solve your problems. You're in a place where everything's calm and everything's quiet, and you can look at your problem from this point of view. And if your normal point of view of looking at the problem isn't working for you, you can try these other different points of view, all kinds of ways of looking at things coming from paradise. Very few choices when you're coming from stress, but it's not like paradise is going to create a life that's free of problems. What paradise is going to do is set you up as a world-class problem solver. The best place to solve your problems is living in paradise.
And right on the heels of that, and the importance, let's underscore the importance of taking responsibility for solving your problems. And yet at the same time, let's remind ourselves that things tend to work out. We certainly can have a lot more trust in the process of things and the outrageously high levels of evidence that everything about existence really wants us to live, thrive, survive, not just survive, but grow and evolve. Life is a great conspiracy in all levels and dimensions to support life. You are more than one being. There are trillions and trillions of microscopic life forms in you and upon you, microbes and bacteria. They live in you, and the fact that they live in you and upon you often supports your life and your good health. There have been quite a number of experiments done where mice have been raised in sterile conditions, and while they look okay, they lack energy and they suffer all this organ deformity because they don't have these other life forms in them and upon them. You do not want to be sterile. You want to live in harmony with so-called beneficial, the positive, life-affirming life forms. There is a whole universe or a community of life within you, and it's in everyone's interest to get along, so to speak. So it really merits some reflection, a little bit of pondering, this idea that life in all of its magnificence is a grand conspiracy to move us forward, to keep us healthy, if you get the bigger picture, you can point to all kinds of evidence to the contrary here, but I'm saying if you step back and see the bigger context or concept here, I think you'll see life wants to exist, and it wants to grow, and it wants to heal, it wants to evolve, unfold, to aspire to, right? That's just essential to life. So the place that happens is in paradise within you now. Affirm that. Confirm that with this affirmation. Paradise lives in me now. In the 19-teens and 1920s, there was a pretty well-known Frenchman, a scientist, named Emile Coué, who coined this affirmation about everything getting better every day, better and better, every day in every way, better and better and better. And he told people whatever their problem, whatever their sickness, whether it was emotional, whether it was some sort of mental breakdown, whether it was a physical illness or malady or even an injury. He'd tell everybody the same thing. Take a string, tie 20 knots in the string, and last thing at night before you go to sleep and first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, pick up the string, and for every one of those knots, repeat the affirmation. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. And then, just so you don't have to count and keep track, you go to the next knot on the string and say, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. And of course, the secret is to do it not by rote, but to really put your attention on it and really mean it as you say it. How about the same prescription for this affirmation? Paradise lives in me now. What if you said that 20 times a day, spaced out throughout the day? Okay, you don't have to do the string with the knots. You don't have to keep track. Might be 18 or 22, doesn't matter. Wouldn't that be a nice way to keep your attitude straight, to encourage yourself, to reorient yourself throughout a busy and hectic day? Paradise lives in me now.
And remember, because it lives, it grows and changes. So you allow your paradise to evolve and to get better and better. I mean, it can smell a certain way and taste a certain way and sound, and that can grow and that can change. Paradise lives with it. It's not a dormant thing. It lives, it grows, it changes. But basically, it's an option for your daydreaming. You know, right now your daydreaming goes off into the place it went last time. For most people, that's worry. But what you're creating is simple, is an option for your daydreaming, another place for it to go instead. And if it goes to paradise, instead of getting scared, it gets feeling full of love. And instead of getting shut down, it gets very creative and innovative. And paradise grows, changes, evolves, lives inside you now. And it's always there. It's always an option that you can choose to go to. But the more times you purposely go there, the more times you'll sort of automatically go there. You know, the more times you consciously choose to go to the paradise you're creating, the more your autonomic nervous system, your autopilot, gets programmed to do it too, and it just starts happening more and more. And because the subconscious mind likes what it likes and doesn't like what it doesn't like, it really likes the feeling of paradise. Right now, it's just a creature of habit. It'll go to the worry if that's where you take it. But if you take it to paradise, you can solve the same problems you're worried about in your worry land, but solving them in paradise gives you access to imagination and intuition and innovation and ingenuity and insight and ideation and illumination and all kinds of wonderful new ways of looking at the problem with alternative perspectives and just lots of creativity. So get out of the rut, get into the groove of being in paradise instead of being in a dangerous world. When your eyes are closed and you're going off, or your just mind is going somewhere else, make that someplace safe instead of someplace that's dangerous. Make that someplace that feels like paradise, and life becomes much more wonderful.
Let's do a quick little audio journey here. We got an exercise for you that you can do quickly and easily right now. Right now. Close your eyes. Take a breath, and as you exhale, say now. Silently. You don't have to say it out loud. You don't even have to move your lips. You can just
hear the words inside your mind.
There you go. Or if you're really visual, you might see it printed like on a blackboard, or big black letters on a white background. Just see the word now. You should take a nice, slow, deep breath and exhale. Breathe into now. And as you say to yourself, silently and internally, paradise lives in me now. Consider paradise. And after a few moments, repeat it. Paradise lives in me now. And feel the life, feel the livingness, feel the being within you now. And take a few moments and repeat, paradise lives within me now, and embrace and feel filled and full and fulfilled with paradise. And after a few moments, repeat the affirmation. Paradise lives within me now. and feel the point of power that is the eternity within this instant, moment to moment unfolding. Paradise lives within me now.
Within me is my paradise. I feel it in my solar plexus, and I feel it in my heart, and then I feel it start to move to my extremities and up into my face. I feel paradise every place. I feel it beating, I feel it growing, I feel it alive inside of me, my paradise. It feels so nice. It's very special and unique to me. I know what my paradise smells like. I know how my paradise tastes. I know what my paradise sounds like in every single case. And I know what my paradise looks like and how I think and how I feel. I know my paradise backwards and forwards. To me, it's realer than real. Your paradise is unique to you, invented in your mind. But you don't have to try and figure this out. Just allow it to come through, and you'll find that your intuition knows what your paradise looks like and smells like and feels like, too. Your intuition already knows the perfect paradise. Just allow it to come to you. Because there you'll feel safe, and therefore you're free to dream wonderful things. And creating these things in paradise, great results it often brings. And even if not, just thinking about it feels so very nice. It's always a wonderful investment in self, your time spent in paradise.
All of the elements of paradise live within you. You can bring them together effortlessly simply by forming the intention to place your attention on feeling that safe and that relaxed. Feel the physical tension fall away from your body. Drop it as if it weighed 15, 20 pounds, and you can actually feel lighter as a result of releasing that worry, that anxiety, those fears held as muscular tension and stress. Let go. Feel your muscles go loose. In paradise. And feel safe, as if you're supposed to be here. As if seated upon the ground you feel rooted. Not that you couldn't get up and move around if you wanted to, but for the moment, grounded, don't you see, plugged in and connected to the common ground of this beautiful paradise all around you. Integrated, a paradise that surrounds you, yet lives within you. Now, as peace and an expanded awareness of your identity and your motives, who you are and why you're here. From this elevated perspective, the bigger picture that paradise provides. When we remind ourselves that paradise lives within me now.
And the more you say it, the more you think it, the more you feel it, the more you make it come true. Paradise lives in me now becomes a part of you. It's always there, and it's always ready to make you feel safe and nice. You'll have as a tool you can always use this place called paradise. So know what it looks like, know what it sounds like and feels like and tastes like too. Know every sensation of that paradise place and let it evolve inside you. Let it get better, let it grow, let it get even more amazing than it was before. Let your paradise grow and become more and more and more, but go there intentionally, consciously, purposefully. And as you do, you'll find that you start to create a habit of doing so there inside your mind. And then without even thinking, you find yourself there often, many times. And each time you find yourself in this paradise place, each time you will find more creativity and more ability to be the best that you can be. The paradise place inside yourself unlocks creativity. So make it a habit and allow it to become your favorite place to go. When it's time to leave the 3 dimensions behind, know inside, just know that this is your favorite option, this is your favorite choice, this beautiful, perfect paradise place. Says the inner voice, come here, be clear. Release your tension, anxiety, and all of your fear. Come here to paradise, where you're safe as you can be. It's alluring. It's magnetic. This paradise is the place from which you can best create your next reality.
Bring this feeling of paradise with you back into the room as you consider what you'll see in a few moments when I ask you to open your eyes, reorient yourself to where it is you are sitting right now. Feel yourself supported by the chair, the floor, the pillow. And take a nice, slow, deep breath. Hold for just a moment as you peak, and as you exhale slowly, open your eyes awake. Now, wide awake, alert, rested and refreshed with this feeling of safety and peace, being really centered and balanced. You bring that with you right out into the world. Now, carry that gently, as if it were fragile. Hold it as if it were delicate in the palm of your hand, and see how long can I maintain in the physical world this sense of being this safe and relaxed.
You know, I was thinking yesterday about the whales and how they have to go up to Alaska to eat because there's only food up there, but then they come to Maui to feel safe enough to have their mate and have their babies and birth their babies, and how creatures do that. They move to places when they can away. If they don't have to be there for food, they'll go to the places where there's least predators. Well, it evolved, I think, into human beings, into this amazing institution called vacation. We leave the stressful world, we go and try and find a paradise place, something where we can be safe and leave our fear behind. Well, what we're saying is you don't have to go to a paradise to have paradise within. You can have paradise within and bring it with you wherever you go.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. As always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.